Hello and welcome to the Weather Channel. I'm Jason, your host, and after a couple of days messing around with Linux, I've come to the very obvious conclusion that Linux is a far better operating system than Windows. It's down to a couple of simple facts. You don't own Windows. Windows is controlled by a corporation. They decide when to stop supporting it. They decide when to download your stuff. You can pause or stop the updates, but in doing so, two problems arise. The first is that Windows is built in a way that it can actually reinitialize it, especially these days. So even though you chose that you didn't want updates, or you chose that you didn't want Windows 11, but you still wanted normal updates, if your computer is compatible at some point in time in the next year, your computer will automatically update to Windows 11. Now, I have nothing against Windows 11, but it's the fact that we're taking away our choice. That's wrong. Choice is all we have. What's the point otherwise? And especially with them going towards AI and that more, which I love AI, but I see the potential for a company like Microsoft to use it to basically control your operating system. And if you try to disconnect it, it'll be so intrinsically thingy that the operating system will not work with it. So where are we left with that? I've been deep diving into this, and yes, there's been issues like, for example, OBS. OBS out of the box on Manjaro does not have browser support. Why do I want browser support with my OBS? Because the restream chat that I use when I'm streaming, for it to show up actually within the stream and be recorded within the stream, you need a browser support plugin for it to work at all. Well, so how did I fix this? Okay, so I Googled, I found out that there was a repository, OBS browser, Linux build, and I went into, opened the terminal, and I typed in Pacman, which is the pack manager, install, and the name of the actual thing, and it installed it. Well, actually, what it did was it installed it 3/4 of the way down, and then it came up with an error. And it said, can't finish the install because you don't have such and such app maker or whatever it was, something maker. And so, what did I do? I did Pacman install the item that's missing, and it did. And then later on it says, when I tried to install OBS again, it said, you're missing this other requirement, auto config. So I installed that for my system using the same simple press a button and type a line. And then it installed. That's about the biggest headache I've had up to now. Once I stopped thinking like a Windows user and expecting just to press a button. You see, we've been trained out of using DOS prompts and that. I still remember the days of using MS-DOS and having so much more control over the operating system. I remember when Windows was something that you owned a license to and you chose. It didn't choose. So I'm in a situation now where if I could switch completely to Linux right tomorrow, I would say, yes, I'd do it. I have tested over 170 games today, and every single one of them I've been able to get running as well or better than it does on Windows. Why? because the only bump, the only add-ons, the only bloatware on my system is stuff that I decide is going to be on there. There's no metrics going off to Microsoft. It's as secure as I want it to be. So why can't I? Because I can't. I'm going to have to keep one Windows PC in the house. Why? Because hardware developers still do not support Linux. That's the sucky part. I can get 99% of my stuff to work on Linux. And because of the push forward by Gabe and Steam and Valve and all that, and the Proton layer used on the Steam Deck and all that, it isn't the games that stop me. It's the hardware. What hardware exactly? Pimax. Pi fucking Max. I love my Pimax, but it's got an intermediate piece of software. I've never understood why my friend BritMonkey, who's an avid user of Linux and uses it for him, has a virtual machine set up for his VR. So he runs Windows in the background for VR. And it's because it's pretty much impossible to get the Pimax software stably to run in Linux. And that's on them. That is on them. Because there is a hell of a lot of Linux users who would love just to be using Linux. So that's the first thing. So I've got to keep at least one computer, because for me, VR isn't a hobby in that, it's part of my treatment of that. And unless I want to start just using a blooming Quest 3 instead of my Pimax, which, no. I'm going to have one computer that's specifically set up just for VR and just for the two other items that I haven't found a fix for. The first is a piece of budgeting software that I love, Ace Money Light. I can't find a version of it. I've another look, but I don't think there's a Linux version of it. And MailWatcher Pro. One of the reasons that I have never been screwed over by email, never got a virus via email, and no phishing attempt has ever worked on me via email, is because of MailWatcher Pro and what it does. And unfortunately, there is not a Linux version of it, which is a pity. It is a pity, because pretty much everything else I can do on this. I mean, if you have a look here, I've got my dual monitor set up, I've got OBS, I'm doing my vlogs here, and everything is working. This morning I did a stream and things were working. I've managed to tweak things, so now I've got my browser, plug in my Restream chat, and everything just works. And the feeling of I understand now why BritMonkey, there's no way he'll ever go back to thingy. He keeps Windows around just for specific things that he can't do. But I understand now how fucking amazing it is to have an operating system that you own, that you decide what is on there, that you decide when to update, that you decide everything about it, and that is more resistant to viruses and hacking in there than Windows ever will be. And there's no person out there in a corporation, a stranger, making decisions about your operating system and taking choice away from you. So yeah, if I could switch completely. I mean, when you think about it this way, the Pymega, which is the Amiga emulation software, amazing setup that I've got installed on 4 of my systems, means I've got 4 of them. I've got my 2 Steam Decks, which are, of course, Linux based. I've got this computer, which is Linux based. And I have 2 Windows computers, 1 laptop. No, actually, I have 3 Linux computers. And this is better. It's more efficient. Once you get over the headache that you're actually going to have to type in a few commands, and you're going to have to troubleshoot, as in you're going to have to use your brain, then it all starts to make a lot more sense. So yeah, if I could switch tomorrow, the sad fact is if I wasn't spoiled by Pimax, the Valve Index does work with this. In fact, I'm very tempted to bring my Valve Index downstairs and plug it in here and use it on this. Very tempted to do that. Just to prove that it can be, and to use it for VRchat now. But the Valve Index compared to the Pimax, please Valve, come out with a second index. So that's the situation I'm in. I will continue to tweak this and add stuff to it to thingy, but a lot of very smart people have tried to get the Pimax software to run with Linux, and I don't think anybody has managed to get it functioning. So this is Jason for the Quiver channel. I can't believe I'm a Linux user now. This is what happens when I mess with stuff.